Welcome back to my channel. I am your favorite mother of three, Bougie Vintage, and today's video is a story time. I have had this story in the vault for the longest time, mainly because I wasn't sure how I wanted to tell it because of what it involves. I think it's a good video to put out there to make people that are not the wisest to not get ensnared in the way that I was ensnared, okay? And trust me, it's easier to get taken advantage of than one would like to believe, okay? Especially if you're coming out of a very vulnerable situation. I'm about to tell you the story of the worst lawyer ever. And once again, this stuff only happens to me. In 2022, I had to retain a lawyer in Canada. So this is a story about a Canadian lawyer. And I would say his name so that y'all would know not to go hire him for anything, but obviously for legal reasons I can't do that. So we will call him Pizza because he was a piece of work, okay? So we're calling him Pizza in the story. Now I'll take you back to the beginning. Initially I had called a few lawyers because I wasn't sure how my divorce proceedings would be handled, and honestly, I thought that my divorce would be really simple, but from the very beginning it was complicated. So I called a few places after reading the reviews on Google. And so his reviews on Google were really good. And I personally now feel like it was probably his friends or somebody, I don't know, people that he knows writing the reviews for him to make it look like he was greater than he actually was. And so I called a few places and I end up deciding I'm gonna go with this guy. I didn't have a rhyme or reason for picking the lawyer. I just needed a family lawyer, and this person had their own practice. I think that drew me in even more, and maybe now I should think that could potentially have been a red flag, because maybe if I had found a more reputable firm with somebody working in the firm doing family law, would have been better than finding somebody that's independent and fairly young. He was fairly young, but I didn't know his age until after I hired him. Now, when I had first called him to see if he could be my lawyer, he asked me a little bit about my situation. So I told him, and he had told me at that time, and this is before I even retained him, he had told me at that time that if I want him to help me, then I need to take the information that I just gave him and get a restraining order against my ex. And so I was iffing and butting, and I was like, I don't want to do that because X, Y, and Z. And he was like, he called me by my first name. He's like, Bougie. So yeah, he had a British accent, and who knows if that British accent was even real at this point. I think it was, but he's like, Bougie. He called me obviously my actual name, not Bougie, but he's like, Bougie, if you want me to help you, you're gonna have to do that, because this guy, he's been an asshole to you. So why are you trying to further protect him? Why won't you get a restraining order? I can't help you in terms of custody if you don't get a restraining order, and blah blah blah, and telling me all these things that I need to do. And so when he told me this information, I said, okay. And he said, you can think about it over the weekend and get back to me, and blah blah blah, because I think I had called him on a Friday or Thursday. So I was like, okay, I will. I didn't think I was gonna end up calling him back, because he was really pushing the issue, and there was already a lot of tension between me and my ex, so I didn't really want to put more tension. But I figured maybe I can have a conversation with my ex. Oh, she's delusional. So I am trying to meet up with my ex to have this conversation, because I want to tell him what the lawyer is advising me to do. And I don't know why I thought that this conversation would go over well, because it obviously didn't. I've talked about this on a different video, but I'm trying to meet up with my ex, and he's giving me the runaround. He is telling me one day, this is in text messages, he'll tell me we can meet this one day and then blow me off, right? And he's avoiding me because he thinks that I'm going to try to serve him at his workplace, but that wasn't it. I was like, what is your schedule so I can meet up with you, because I need to have a conversation with you. So he was thinking I was going to serve him and embarrass him at work, but that wasn't what I was doing. I was trying to tell him, this is what my lawyer is advising me to do. I don't want to do it. So at that point, I finally get him to stop giving me the runaround. We meet up, but we don't meet up at his work. We meet across from like a Starbucks. We were gonna go into the Starbucks, but ended up just being in my vehicle. And so he's sitting in my car, and I tell him what the lawyer is advising me to do, and he gets upset with me, and we all know how that story went, right? And so at that point, I'm like telling him, I'm not going to do it. This is what my lawyer is telling me to do, and I don't want to do it, but if you don't change your behavior, I'm gonna have to do it. And so he starts beating on my dashboard and tells me, you know, do what you need to do. And I'm just like, are you not in the same car as me, sir? Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? I'm telling you, I'm not gonna do it. I just need you to do better, that I don't have to do it. Hello, right? Because I would have went and got a different lawyer, but that reaction triggered a whole bunch of other events. And obviously I went forth and got the restraining order. And so once I got the restraining order and I got served, because I didn't serve my ex served me. So I didn't serve him with divorce papers. The restraining order was put on him. And then after the restraining order was put on him, then he filed for divorce. So in doing that, and it was like months later, so that whole time that I got my restraining order until the time I was served about the divorce, I did not have any communication with my ex, and you know, that situation was happening. And so I never really went back to the lawyer once I got that restraining order. And that was because I had realized how much peace I had. And so I was like, oh, cool. So then fast forward, my ex tries to send his girlfriend to contact me, which was violating the restraining order. So I get pissed off, obviously. So at this point, they begin contacting my lawyer to try to serve me. They could serve the lawyer directly. They didn't have to serve me. And so they go ahead and they serve the lawyer. And then that's when the divorce proceedings start. And so at this point, I'm like officially hiring the lawyer now. So now I'm gonna have to start paying money because now there is paperwork to be dealt with, right? I made a mistake, a big one, by the way. Once I left, I should have probably filed for divorce, like in Canada. But I had really no intention on getting divorced because I was not gonna get married again. I was okay with like being separated forever. Because I just wasn't at the back of my mind, you know. My initial thought was that we would be separated, move on with our lives, and I figured too, if my ex decides he's going to get married again or something, he would divorce me. So that's why I'm like, I ain't going to no court and filing no paperwork and spending this money on no divorce and all these things, because it just wasn't necessary for me, because I knew I wasn't going to get married again. I would have been married for until I was 103, okay? Whoever kicks the bucket first, okay? Especially because it's not like I don't have that last name, right? I have my own last name. So there was just no, you know. So divorce was the last thing on my mind. I was just happy to be out of there, okay? I was just happy to be free. So end up with this lawyer now, and of course, once he gets served, we have to come up with a response. Now, when my ex first filed for divorce, he didn't have a lawyer. So the paperwork that he filed was very, it had like 2 sentences on it, you know, and that was it. It didn't say much. It just had like 2 handwritten sentences, and it was signed and delivered to my attorney. And at that point, I think my attorney was excited because he could see that this was not going to be something that was a challenge for him. But of course, I don't know any of those things. When you hire a lawyer, you end up having to disclose pretty much everything to them, right? So I had to tell the lawyer everything, and I had to get into my financial situation and, you know, tell him how much I'm making. And obviously after I left my ex, I started making a lot of money. And so because of that, I think my attorney, he saw me as a big old dollar sign, and he realized I don't know anything about anything when it comes to this kind of stuff. So he's gonna milk me and use me and abuse me. And I'm never gonna realize until it's too late. So I think the retainer was like $4,000. And so I pay the retainer, we handle some things, and I remember one day we were on the phone for like 4 hours typing up my response to file for our first court date, right? Me and the attorney are on the phone. he's typing stuff. It's actually a Zoom call, so I can see the stuff he's typing and putting in, and I'm correcting him because you'll say something to an attorney and they'll like reword it, and I'm like, no, you cannot put it like that because that's not what I said. Okay, so I'm trying to make it as accurate as possible, but your attorney is going to make things sound crazier than they actually are sometimes. And so I'm telling the attorney whatever, and he does the whole thing, then sends it to me to revise and ask me if the materials are good, and I'm like, yes, the materials are fine or whatever, so that he can file it. So he tells me he's going to go and file the paperwork. Well, fast forward to our first court date, which actually ends up being, and this is way into the future. At this point, I've had the attorney for a few months, and my ex still had no lawyer. We have this court date, and I have my lawyer, and my ex had been legally bullying me, and so I thought that my ex had a lawyer, because when his girlfriend would say something to me, or when he would say something to me, he'd always bring up his lawyer, but he had no lawyer. And so I was talking to my therapist at that time about it, and she gave me this document about legal bullying. And so I think this was after, so I had a meeting with my therapist after the session, and I was telling her how I thought that my ex had a lawyer, but when I showed up to court with my lawyer, he didn't have one. So he was defending himself at first. We go to the first hearing or whatever. The judge at that hearing is talking to my attorney, and the judge is telling my lawyer about the paperwork not being filed. And so I don't think too much of it, because by the end of the call, he said if he can still file them. He said he was trying to explain to her that the portal was not working when he was trying to upload the paperwork. And when I found out why the paperwork was not filed or could not upload to that portal, you guys are going to gag, okay? But we'll talk about that when we talk about that. Pretty much though, the judge said yes, he can still file the materials, but he needs to make sure that they're filed. Now, like I said, I didn't think anything of that at the time because the judge gave him an okay to still file after the fact, but we were there at court pretty much unprepared, and I'm like, what the frig? But again, I don't know the law. I've never been in a courtroom before, really. Like, I don't know what's going on here. I don't know how these things work. I know I hired a lawyer, and the lawyer is supposed to file the paperwork, and he said that there was an issue with the portal. And he actually had informed me about the portal issue before we went to court. So when the judge started to say anything to him, I wasn't thinking anything of it. Boom. Fast forward, right? We get through that first hearing. The judge ends up ordering for contact to happen via FaceTime, and she put me and my lawyer in a breakout room. When she put me and my lawyer in the breakout room to quickly discuss, because the initial reason we were at court was for something else, I don't even remember what it was for, and she put us in a breakout room to quickly discuss like a schedule for these calls. And I'm like, what the frig? Because at that time there had been zero contact because of the restraining order. And so I was like, oh my God, no. So she puts us in the breakout room, and I'm talking to the lawyer, and I'm like, well, okay, fine for the calls, but what about child support, right? Like, what about, you know, some kind of financial help, because I'm not getting any. And my lawyer's like, well, that's a separate issue. We have to file something else for that, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, but why we were here was not even, like, I don't understand. And so I'm upset because I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. He won't give me any financial support. He's being difficult, and now I have to disturb our peace because it's been so peaceful. I have to disturb our peace, and I'm still not going to get any financial help, and he's not going to give me any financial help because he's mad. Like, what is this? So I'm pissed off, and I'm talking to the lawyer, and so we come up with a day or whatever, and it's 1 day a week, and blah blah blah. So the judge orders that. Okay, cool, fine. Boom, get out of that hearing now, right? And so at this point, I'm expecting that my lawyer has filed the paperwork that he was supposed to file, because why wouldn't he, right? It doesn't mention anything about it, right? Well, it's the winter time now. He's been counsel for almost a year. There was a lot of struggle at first with the phone calls happening, the FaceTime calls happening. I was desperately trying to get my ex to even just pay the internet bill, because I'm like, well, at least if he's paying the internet bill and that's what the calls are happening on, fine, right? Because I'm paying for the rent by myself, $3,000. I'm paying for my car by myself, that was another $1,000. I'm paying every bill, every grocery. Like, nobody's taking care of the kids but me. So I'm just like, what the frig? Like, at least pay the internet bill if you're going to be talking to them. Because what are you talking to them for if you ain't even go pay the internet bill? You know what I mean? Like, you're not feeding them, clothing them, don't care about nothing like that. So like, I'm pissed. I am pissed. I'm like, this is crazy. But of course, that was not going over well. And there was nothing I could do about it other than oblige the order from the court. Otherwise, I would be in trouble. And so I was genuinely scared about how the children would be if they were, you know, not talking to him for so long and then brought back into contact with him. How it would, you know, sort of upset them, and they're so tiny that they don't know how to self-regulate yet. So is it going to be too much for them and all these things? And so I'm in therapy now, and at this point I have a new therapist because my old therapist moved. She left Canada. I'm just having a revelation. Yeah, so I had this new therapist, this guy, and this old man, and I'm talking to him about the situation, and he tells me that, you know, he's like, you have to let the calls happen. Don't be worried about things like that. Just, you know, let it go. Let it happen, and worry about it after if you need to. And so the therapist tells me that, but at the same time, there is another court hearing scheduled because I had missed calls. So this court hearing that happened, or that was going to be happening, sorry, my lawyer, he's like, your ex has a lawyer now. And I'm like, okay, and like, what is that? Okay. So at this point, everything starts going downhill because, well, it already went downhill because he had not filed the paperwork. Okay. At this point, he's like, yeah, your ex has a lawyer now, and there's a hearing coming up on like the 9th or something like that. But before I left for India, I told his lawyer, and I can show you the email, I told her I was not going to be in office. I'm going to India for a month. My father's dying, all these things. And I'm just like, okay, what are you saying, sir? Like, what are you telling me? He's like, well, there's a hearing, but there's a way to beat them when we go, or when you go. But you're going to have to fire me as your counsel. I'm like, huh? Mind you, at this point, I've dished out all kinds of money. Okay, I'm 10 grand out, 20. Not, I don't think I spent 20. More than 10 though. I have paid this man more than $10,000, and he's not filed not one paperwork. And now he's calling me out of the blue, telling me his dad is dying from cancer in India, and I have a court hearing coming up, and he's not going to be there. I have to fire him and tell the judge I had to let go of my counsel because of X, Y, and Z. And he literally wrote out a script for me to say to the judge as to why motion or whatever they had filed needs to be adjourned for that day because I no longer have a lawyer and I need to find a new one. I'm like, I'm taken aback. This is like January, I think. I'm like, whoa. What are you saying to me? Mind you, what was so crazy is I had been talking to my mom about firing him because I felt like nothing was getting done or handled, and I didn't understand. I'm paying all this money and I'm not seeing any fruit. Okay, the fruit is rotten. I'm not seeing the fruit. So I'm talking to my mom, like I'm gearing up to fire him, and out of the blue, he calls me and tells me I need to fire him. And I'm like, feeling so defeated because I'm just like, what is this? What is going on here? Like, how is this so? Like, what? What? Mind you, at this point, I don't know that the paperwork has still not been filed, but he knows that. Let me see if I can find, oh, so funny. So my Jamaican lawyer just called me to give me a little scoopity scoop. So, but that's not for this video. Anyway, what was I saying? Paperwork not filed, but I don't know that. And now this guy is telling me that he has a plan for us to still come out with the victory in court, but I would have to let him go as counsel and explain that to the judge and yada, 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 yada. So he sends me this script. He tells me to say these 9 things to the judge so that we can have it dismissed or adjourned until further notice or whatever. So it said, I have recently disbanded my working relationship with my previous counsel of record, Mr. Blank Blank, Mr. What did I call him? Pizza, Mr. Pizza, okay? As there has been a breakdown in the relationship and we did not see eye to eye on my case moving forward. This is a lie, okay? That is a lie. Anyway, 2, I am now acting as a self-represented litigant. 3, I only learned of this motion on January 9th, 2023 when the counsel for the applicant, his lawyer's name, a confirmation for a motion. 4, his lawyer, in the meantime, when she served and filed the notice of motion on December 28, 2023, did not include a time and date for when the motion was to be heard. 5, I, nor my lawyer, was ever included in the email thread to schedule the motion or to canvass our availability to attend. 6, I could not attend today as I do not have childcare presently for my children. 7, my lawyer had an away email reminder set stating that he will be out of the country from December 15th to January 7th and will not be checking emails during these times. The lawyer for the other party has stated that my previous lawyer did not respond to her first correspondence on December 15th, however, failed to state the away email in her confirmation, which is an unfair and untrue representation to the court regarding counsel's correspondence with one another. Baby, I didn't even get to that point at the hearing, because the judge was like, listen, if it's a court order, you have to follow it. Like, that's just that. But it was like 2 minutes long. It was not a long hearing. It was very short. He was like, just follow the court order. And I said, I will. And then from that point on, it was fine, right? 8, there is a case conference set for January 26th, and the applicant is statute barred from bringing a motion prior to a case conference, as per section 14, subsection 4 of the family law rules. So that was something that he had told me too. He's like, she's not allowed to file right now because of the thing that's already in place. And so that's why the judge didn't take a long time with this situation, because it was not supposed to even go before him, despite the fact that there were issues there with the contact happening with the kids. His lawyer, so her name is there, but it says, if his lawyer insists that this matter is urgent, it should be further noted that my ex is now getting the endorsed forms of contact via FaceTime on Saturdays and has since December 25th, 2022, prior to the service of notice of motion on December 28th, which is true. Christmas Day was their first ever call from the time that the restraining order came into place. Christmas Day of 2022 was the first ever contact, and they filed their motion after that date, which was actually also when the first call to CAS was made, right? They were playing some dirty games, okay? It is for these reasons that I am requesting an adjournment of this motion until after the case conference date, Your Honor. So that's what the guy told me to say to the judge. I didn't even get through all of it. I got through some of it. I kind of veered off and went into different directions, because that same day I was getting these text messages from a Text Plus number. Oh god, those text messages were a mess, and I had posted them to my community tab. Like, a lot was going on that day, and it was right before court, and I said, what kind of demonic games are these? Anyway, he said to me, Bougie, I believe you could read the aforementioned reasons word for word, and that it should be enough to succeed for an adjournment on that date. Thanks, and I will follow up with you later on this morning. Just a further gentle reminder to remember to sign the DocuSign envelope at your earliest convenience. The DocuSign was to get rid of him as counsel. Okay, so he didn't waste no time sending me that. That's what he told me to tell the judge. And so I did. And so at this point now, I don't have a lawyer. A lot of other things are happening in my life at that time. And so I just roll with the punches, I guess. And so I end up getting rid of that lawyer. Fast forward, okay, to February, and I end up in Jamaica looking for a house. Mind you, I was supposed to be in Los Angeles, not Jamaica, right? So the week before I flew to Jamaica to find a place, I was actually getting packed and ready to go to Los Angeles, and realized I'm not going to Los Angeles. And so February 5th, I believe, was supposed to be my Los Angeles trip, and February, I think 16th is when I flew to Jamaica. I ended up in Jamaica, and when I was in Jamaica, I ended up finding a lawyer. Now I hired this lawyer, and this is the day I realized I've been robbed, okay? So this is the day I realized I've been robbed, okay? The lawyer that I hired, now it was a lady, and she was actually in the middle of switching firms. And so because she was switching firms, she was like, oh, you don't need to pay me until I get to the new firm, which was not until April. And so I'm like, oh, we love when God is looking out for us, okay? I don't have to dish out no more money, because I didn't spend over $10,000, and I'm not seeing any I'm not seeing $10,000 worth of representation. I'm not, okay? Like, he would like literally call me and be like, oh, your retainer's done. I need you to make another deposit and all these things. And so I would just do it because I thought he was working. First of all, when he came up with the first affidavit that never got filed, it was so good. I'm thinking we got this in the bag from the very first like interaction, and because we would spend these long hours on the phone writing up the stuff. So I'm thinking everything is good and dandy. I have no idea I'm swindled, okay? So I send over everything that I have to this new lawyer now, this lady. And she's like, I'm sorry, do you live in Ottawa or Perth? Because I don't handle any cases from Perth. And I'm like, where's Perth, girl? I'm from Ottawa. And I tell her, I'm like, I live in Stittsville. Like, I'm from Ottawa. And she's like, okay, because this document says the Perth courthouse. And then she asked me, how long were you with your last lawyer? And I told her almost a year. And she's like, almost a year? I'm really confused as to why nothing was filed. I said, what are you talking about? Of course things were filed. I sent you over the affidavit. She said it was never filed. I said, what? What are you saying to me, lady? So I'm gagging because I'm like, no. I paid this man a lot of money. What do you mean nothing was filed? And I remember every time I would get on the phone with him, he would be like, oh, this guy's an a-hole. He's an a-hole. He's talking about my ex. And he would be kikiing with me and telling me about Rapunzel and all these things, and saying she's so effing stupid and all these things. And I'm just, because she was like acting as secretary, or like she was acting like a litigant. And so remember I told you guys in that story time that he had to like literally tell her, you're not a litigant, I cannot talk to you. So I'm thinking this guy is like professional AF. But you know what, I should have known from the very beginning, because if you type in a lawyer's name, their picture will pop up on Google. And so when I typed in his name on Google, when I first like, or when I was like looking at the Google reviews and I went to like see his actual photo, why was I shocked when I walked into the actual office? First of all, the office was cute and nice. It was a small little office and there was a few people that work there. But when I went into his actual office, I was shocked because the picture, I don't know how old that picture is, but he didn't look like that. He was fat, he catfished. I should have known from the time I walked in and he didn't look like the picture that was on Google that something was amiss. Okay, so that was like the second red flag that I totally ignored, but I was vulnerable. Okay, I like completely different. So the picture that was on the site, I don't even know if it was on the site, but the picture that was on Google, baby, he didn't look like that anymore. I could tell it was him, but he didn't look like that anymore. Like, I was gagging. I was shocked when I walked in his office. I think he probably could tell that I was shocked, but he didn't know why. Cause he looked crazy. Like the picture on Google, he looked like young, fresh, put together, even handsome. I would say even handsome. He looked a little bit, not a little bit, he looked a lot more handsome. He was not fat. Not that anything wrong with being fat, but he looked greasy. Like I was appalled when I walked into the office and he did not look like the picture. Oh my god, no, it was night and day. Like, that's how shocking it was. Otherwise I would not be sat up here calling this man fat. But that's how shocked I was, because he was not fat in the picture. So he was literally like, I don't know if he had a baby. I know he didn't have a baby. I don't know what happened, girl, but he did not look like, the acne was giving pizza, pepperoni face. Like he sloppy. He wasn't even wearing a suit. He was wearing a black t-shirt. Like, I feel like I caught him on his off day in the middle of the Walmart. It was so bad. So I'm shocked, okay? But I'm just like, okay, let me not judge this man about his looks. I know it's probably just an old photo. Then also, I was shocked at his age, and that was another red flag, because I'm pretty sure, I think he was younger than I was. So he could have finished school early and stuff, but like, you know what it's giving? It's giving the black boy that pretends to be a doctor and keeps going to jail for it. Anyway, let me not. So I'm shocked, okay, because he don't look like how he looked on the internet. And like I said, I just don't judge him. I said, okay, maybe he going through some stuff, okay? So he needs some witch hazel though. But neither here nor there. Anyway, I'm talking to my new lawyer and she telling me nothing's been filed. And I'm like, no, what are you saying to me? Like, I'm really confused about it. And I'm like, I'm gonna have to report him to the bar because I cannot believe he got all that money out of me and then calls me out of the blue, tells me I have to fire him, gives me a script to say to the judge, and has obviously no intention on refunding me my money, claiming that the money has been used. On what? What was the money used for? Because nothing was filed. Like, huh? Nothing was filed. You're telling me I had this lawyer for almost a year and he didn't file not one document? Not one response? Because we had worked on many affidavits together and apparently none of them were filed. And so what happened was he knew that he was swindling me, and I was like, after the fact, I'm like, I don't know if he got paid off to sabotage this situation. I don't know if they put the ooga booga around the candle around the lawyer. What happened? I don't know what happened with the lawyer, girl. I just know that when I hired the second lawyer and she told me that nothing was filed, and when she said nothing, she meant nothing. It's not like one was filed and one wasn't. She said nothing. And then that's what she was confused about. She's like, why is it Perth? Because none of the cases went to Perth. They were all Ottawa. So I'm getting all this information after the fact. And I said, well, this is why my spirit was like, you need to fire him. And then, of course, if you don't do something when God is trying to get you to do it, he will just make it happen. And that's what happened with the lawyer. I was going to fire him, and then I didn't get around to doing it. And then he tells me, you have to fire me. But for good reason, because he could have kept the charade going, but he knew he couldn't, right? So he could have kept the charade going, and I'm still paying, right? He's still getting all this money out of me, and he's not doing anything, and we keep going to court and getting our asses handed to us. But that was never gonna fly. So he got what he could, and then dipped out, and said he would still help me, like, along the way as I self-represent. At first he would answer my text messages, but then he just went cold turkey, disappeared on me, ghosted me, and I'm just like left in the middle of the damn ocean without a paddle. I don't even have a boat. I'm on a raft, and I didn't tie up the raft properly, so I'm drowning like Ace Boogie, okay? Girl, not Ace Boogie, A Boogie. Girl, how am I so lucky? But I couldn't believe when she told me he had not filed anything. And then I could believe it because these things only happen to me. So he was terrible. He took my money. He didn't do his job. Left your girl hanging. Disappeared. And respectfully, I'm not making any of this up. So technically, I could tell y'all who this lawyer was, but I don't need any more trouble. So I'm letting God fight that battle for me, just like he fights all my other battles for me. I don't know what happened to my lawyer after the fact, but I hope he stubbed his toe real hard. I hope his toe fell off. Because what are you saying to me? What are you saying to me? A leech, a cretin. And you know what? He probably gonna be watching this video because he knew what my channel was. And because he saw how much money I was making, like, he definitely used that and took that to his advantage, telling me that. Because how am I going to verify that I don't know when you retain a lawyer, girl, I don't know where the money goes. I really don't. I don't understand how the money is used and why it's, like, I know filing stuff costs money here and there. And of course they got to make a profit. But he profited everything and gave me nothing. He didn't even give me a crumb. Like, not a crumb. He did nothing. Like, I literally paid him $10,000 to talk on the phone with me to write up affidavits and not file them. Oh my god, I'm laughing and it's really not funny. It's really not funny because he was playing with my life and my kids' lives, and that's nothing to joke about. But it's at this point where, like, you just have to laugh, because if you know that God is fighting your battles for you, then you just kind of take these things on the chin and they don't affect you long term. You know, you might get tired in the wilderness and you might get weary and you might be like ready to give up, throw in the towel. You might be ready to do all kinds of stuff, yeah, but you just gotta know that you are going to be okay. The way that situation went, if somebody else told me that happened to them, I wouldn't believe them. I would now, because so much crazy stuff happens to me, but like, out of all the possible lawyers that I could have hired, how did I end up with the one that was actually gonna scam me? Like, lawyers are scamming people every day. It is what it is. Lawyers are just that. One of my favorite movies of all time is Liar Liar with Jim Carrey, and he was a lawyer in that movie, but he was also a blatant liar in that movie. And if you haven't watched that movie, girl, what? I know that movie word for word, but lawyers are known liars, okay? They good at what they do, and if you ain't on your P's and Q's, you gonna get got too, okay? Shout out to me, Dr. Boost, okay? Don't get got. If it seems like your lawyer is not doing their job, snatch him by the edges. Okay, snatch him by the pimples, because that's what I should have done. I should have been cussed out that man, but I didn't cuss him out. I was going through so much at that time. I was never gonna catch him until there was just no way to catch him. How do you catch him? Because it's not like we were sitting in, you know, a courtroom every single week, and every single week I'm getting told that the paperwork's not filed. It was like he dropped the ball, knew he dropped the ball, and in order to get out of looking crazy in front of the judges and me even, he was just like, oh, my dad's dying. His dad probably died 10 years ago, and he's using it as an excuse. Like, I couldn't believe he was telling me his dad died. It very much gave my dog ate my homework. Like, my dog ate your legal papers, girl. And like, after that situation, I wasn't sure what to believe about anything, because he had this girlfriend and he was talking about how she loves Halloween. Another red flag. His girlfriend's like favorite holiday is Halloween, and she's big on Halloween, and I should have known from then. Demon. Okay, I should have casted him and his girlfriend out to the fiery pits of hell. Because what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Halloween is your girlfriend's favorite holiday. No ma'am, no sir, no thank you. Rebuke. Anyway, I hope he's having the day he freaking deserves. I hope he's having the life he deserves, okay? Anyway, that is the story on the worst lawyer ever in Ontario. And honestly, I don't know if his practice is still there, but like, I was gonna leave a Google review and I didn't. What's crazy is they still got 5-star reviews. Anyway, if I do call, I'm just gonna be like, you guys are the worst law firm ever, and click. I think what was the craziest part to me was that before my ex got a lawyer, so when my ex was self-represented, my lawyer was all gung-ho and just, I found him to be immature at times when like if I had to like do an affidavit, and I found him a bit immature, but the materials were good. That's why I was kind of blinded by that too. But I think the thing that really was most upsetting to me is that when my ex got a lawyer, once he was represented, it was like this lawyer jumped ship because he realized he can't play games anymore now. That my ex is lawyered up. He felt like he had the upper hand because his materials would always look better and present better than my ex's. But once my ex got a lawyer, he was like not interested in playing whatever game he was playing before. Like, I was the only one that gets screwed in the end of that, right? But that's not his concern. And so it was literally the minute that my ex got a lawyer, this guy jumped ship. I didn't really know what to do with that, because I was just like, what the frig? Could it be any worse? Well, yeah, it could be actually. But yeah, I found that to be really interesting. I went to the website just now. I went to Google just now, and I see people are still giving good reviews. I never left a review. I feel like my situation is so sensitive and still so ongoing, and I didn't want to add any fuel to the very, very high fire, you know, that my life has become. So I just left it alone. But girl, Pisa was tired, okay? A piece of work is an understatement. He was terrible, and nobody should ever hire him. I might not tell you who it is, but if you leave it in my comment section and it's not him, I will confirm that it's not him. If it is him, I will not confirm or deny, okay? If you get to guessing, you're like, is it this person because I need to hire a lawyer? I'll let you know, yeah, no, you good to go. Okay, it's not him. But don't, if it's him, I'm just gonna delete the comment. Delete the comment. We don't need no drama. If it's him though, and your comment gets deleted, girl. Now, some comments might end up going to spam, so you might think that your comment is deleted, but it's not. That happens all the time. People are like, she's deleting comments, and I don't be deleting comments. So, I don't be deleting comments. So, people be literally cussing me out in their comments and then yelling at me saying I'm deleting the comment, and the comment is literally just gone to spam because it's abusive. Like, YouTube is very sensitive, almost as sensitive as TikTok these days. So, you got to be more careful, okay? If you need to hire a lawyer and you're in Ottawa, and you know, you're trying to make sure you're not hiring this person, I will let you know that your lawyer is not him if it's not him, okay? Anyway, you guys, I love you all so much. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will definitely see you in the next one.